Hey guys, new video here. I'd like to go over my thoughts on the new Atlas weighting system because I'm going to get a lot of questions on this. I'm starting to get questions on like what I'm favoriting and why I'm favoring it. And I don't have like a fully fleshed out strategy yet because it's still very early in the league and I don't really know anything and I haven't really tested that much. But I'm giving my initial thoughts. So first, let's talk about weighting and how you get it. So there are 3 slots here, and every slot that you assign a map, it adds a 10 times weighting modifier to that map. The easiest way to think about this is that let's say there were only 10 maps on the Atlas and they were all the same tier. And so whenever you drop a map, like without any of these like weird rules, it's 1 out of 10 chance to get any of those 10 maps, right? If you were to weight it one time, like assigning, for example, in here, this grotto map to one circle, then that grotto map would be 10 times weighted. So it would drop 10 times more than it usually would, but comparatively to all the other maps, it would be 10 divided by 19. Does that make sense? Because you have a 10 times weighting and 9 other maps in the pool that could drop. So 10 divided by 19, slightly over 50% of your maps that drop will be grotto. This is without any other special rules on the Atlas, which there are, but they won't affect this example. So that is how it works. How do you get these unlocked? Because you will unlock 1 at a time. And the first thing you gotta do, right, is first you just have to complete the maps, right? Completing the map just means when you run the map, you kill the boss, and then boom, that's a completion. Completion does not require unique maps in the area. So if you look at, for example, Tierzen, right? A question I get a lot is like, yo, how do I get everything if you can't get this? Well, you don't need these uniques because it says non-uniques. Okay, so that means in Tierzen you don't need to complete Maelstrom, Death and Taxes, Putrid Cloister, and Cowershall, right? You don't need to worry about those. It's all the normal maps. Oh, there's also Porters here. But it's all the normal maps. You kill the boss, boom. Everything in that zone's done, completed, and you'll get your first stone. The next one is to do bonus objectives. And if you look right here, when you mouse over, you can see a bonus objective that you need to do. A check mark means that you have it. No check mark means that you don't. Other ways that you can see it is if you go to any map in the tab here. Let me just pull out a map here. Let's say I take this Burial Chambers. If you press your advanced item hotkey, for me it's F, I reassigned it, but yours is probably Alt. You can see 3 green texts on this map here, for example, right? Atlas map, bonus objective, and an awakening objective, right? Bonus objective is for the second unlock circle, and bonus objective just means you have to follow whatever it tells you on the bonus objective line on that map. It's almost always going to be a corrupted rare version of that map, right? And then the next thing that you're going to do is for the third circle, you are going to have the awakening bows, which just means to be safe, as long as you have awakening 8 here, you can do any map and it'll work. Okay, so I get this question a lot. What if it says do this at tier 14 and awakening level 3, but I have awakening level 8? Well, it's retroactive, right? Obviously you can't do like level 1 and level 1 awakening level and do a one that requires level 3, but you can do, if you have awakening level 8, you can do any map with the awakening objective and you will absolutely be able to complete. Okay, now please keep in mind that the tier does matter. So for example, this beach map right here says complete this map with at least tier 14 and awakening level 1, right? So you would look, oh, I have the awakening level. Is it tier 14, the map that I'm about to run? Yes, it works. If you ran like a white beach map, right, like a white tier beach map, it would not work. Okay, so once you complete all those steps, and you know, as you're unlocking the Atlas, you'll naturally get some of these. You will unlock all 3 stones. Okay, and so this is important because when you unlock 3, okay, to give you another example, let's say there was only 10 maps on the Atlas and you weighted it one of those maps 3 times. Well, then that would be 30 weighting divided by 39 because that's a total number of, you know, total number of things in there, right? And so 30 divided by 39, that's the vast majority. What is that? Is that almost 3/4? It's 30 divided by 30. Yeah, it's like a little over 3/4, right? So that's kind of insane. So in that example, you'd be mostly dropping the map you want, okay? So with that said, what do I think about the system? I think the system is pretty good because it is a flat upgrade over the thing that we had in 3.9, which is like if you want to do some kind of sustaining, you either had to be a little bit more selective with your maps. Maybe you had to make another account and have a fresh Atlas because you could completely brick your Atlas by accidentally completing maps because you don't have seals this league, right? Those are gone. And so basically now it's a direct upgrade, and there are bonuses associated with that because, you know, if you can drop more of a map that sells well, you know, most people don't like selling maps. Like, I'm not going to leave my map for like a 2C trade, 5C trade sometimes, unless it's in bulk. But now, you know, when you selectively weight the maps, you do notice it. It's pretty good. You do notice it, and then, you know, if you want to bulk those maps, it's a lot of money. If you want to run those maps, you get more of the maps you enjoy. So overall, great job to Grinding Gear Games to implement the system. Initially, when I was going up the tiers here, so when I was like doing my awakening bonus and everything, and I was unlocking 3, I will say that you don't really feel it at first, okay? Around like 100 and under, I really felt like, for me at least, the first week, I was like, is this actually working? And a lot of people were like asking me that. They're like, hey, is it actually working? I don't really know. And it really didn't feel like it was making that much of an impact below like 100 and something, right? And this is anecdotal, but there were Reddit posts from people that had tested it out, and some people were saying that until you got like really close to the min max here, it didn't really feel like it was kicking in. And I kind of like agree with that. I don't know. It's kind of a weird system, but if you ever feel like it's not working, try to get this completed awakening bonus objective as close to min max as possible, as close to 154. And you can get 154 now as of the last patch. So that's one way that you'll really start to feel that kick in. Now, what maps do I have favorited? Well, this is going to be kind of my preferences, and I want newer players or even players who are like, you know, this is a new system, right? So everyone's kind of new to this system. I want you to know that the favorite map system is exactly that. It's the maps you enjoy, okay? So first, a little caveat. I cannot sustain my favorited maps even if I do one of each tier from 14 to 16, right? You can sustain from like the yellow tiers if you want to do that strategy. But for example, let's say that I only wanted tier 14 Barrow Chambers, okay? And I only wanted T15, what's a good example? I only wanted T15 Park as an example, right? And I only wanted T16 Canyon. Once again, these are just examples. Although I am heavily sustaining all the red tiers, like my 14s, 15s, 16s, overall, I can never run out of those. I'm slowly gaining more than I can ever run. I cannot sustain the ones that I just mentioned favoriting with this current Atlas bonus and with my current method of rolling and running maps, okay? So that means if I were to only want to run Barrow Chambers, right, or Canyon for my T16, I cannot, because unless I were to buy the maps, which is totally fine, unless I were to buy the maps, I don't have enough of that map to run. Make sense? And there are some things you can do like Horizon Orbing with T16s and other things for natural tiers, but I'm not going to talk about in this video. This is just about the favoriting system. And I think that's actually okay, because I do notice that the weighting system does work pretty well. I do, when I go to my map tab and I clean my dump tabs and put it all into my map premium tab, I do notice a lot more of that than, let's say, maps that are unweighted, right? So that definitely works. If you're, one thing that's going to come up is if you are tracking this and you're like, wait a minute, the weighting system, you know, with the total number of tier X with my weighting of 30 times, it doesn't come out to the right percentage on average. And I've dropped 100 of these overall. The reason for that is because there are special rules on the Atlas, such as like dropping adjacent maps from the boss at a % chance, which is modified by some of these numbers, but I'm not gonna get into that, okay? You can watch other videos for that. Okay, that will skew your results because the boss drop has a separate map drop that is like kind of not tied to the weighting bonus. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If your results are skewed, pay attention to if it's an adjacent of the map that you're running a lot, because that will matter. Okay, with that out of the way, let me additionally give some thoughts on what are the good ones, right? Because that's probably why everyone's here. Everyone just wants to know what map should I favorite? Which ones are the best? I just want to do the best because all I care about is the monies, and I want to weight the one that gives me the most monies, or the one I can bulk for to sell. You know, maybe like 5, 10, 20 at a time for the big monies, right? Because people will pay more for these good maps in bulk. Well, I'll just tell it to you. Tier 14 Barrow Chambers. Tier 15 Lair is really good for a good mix of of good cards and splinters. And then tier 16, I mean, tower, I guess. The slower you are, I guess the better tower is, because the faster you are, the more proportion of the time spent in a map is on the boss. It's a phase boss, takes really long time, very annoying. But I guess tower would be the best T16. And let me go over some criteria, right? Ideally, you would want to spam run a map that has both a good div card and a good layout for splinters. Splinters, this league, after the latest patch and how they all drop at the end, you can definitely tell that some maps are heavily weighted towards splinter drops. For example, Burial Chambers, Tropical Island, maybe even Malformation. Things are very long and have breaks, like where you teleport between rooms, like Tower, things like this. Okay, so because of that, you're gonna keep these things in mind. Div card drops and value. How many splinters on average? Because if you think about it, if I get, like right now in Burial Chambers, I'm getting between 30 and 40 splinters on average. That means every 10 maps I get 70 to 80 C. So you have to keep that in mind, right? For a new player, that could be quite a bit if you're just spamming down the maps. So with that in mind, Burial Chambers has a doctor, which is I think 17, 18 exalts right now. I expect that to go up. There's something really weird about burials where even without that much juice, you are dropping a decent amount of doctors. So I've dropped 2 doctors so far, about 80 in about 80 something maps. It's kind of crazy. Other people have been dropping like 2-3 doctors every other day. If you're group playing, those group players are dropping like I don't know, doctors like every map, 2 doctors in the map, 3 doctors in the map. It's kind of nuts with the Burial Chambers. So I'll say Burial Chambers is kind of shooing for tier 14 if all you care about is the money and you like the layout and stuff. Once again, tier 15, I think Lair is a really good choice because in my testing, Lair had a really good amount of average splinters, 30 plus splinters on average, right? So a little bit of passive income there. And then also it has a Pharaoh's Fur card. It's got some other cards. And so that's, it's got a linear layout. So minimal backtracking in the middle area, but it's like a little loop. So very good for Delirium. And the boss is pretty easy. So yeah, Lair is my choice there. And then for the T16, the tower, because of the nurse drop. The nurse drop is just an 1/8 of a doctor, and it drops with less variance. You'll probably be less discouraged because in Burial Chambers, let's say you go like 400 maps without a doctor, you're gonna be a little bit discouraged, especially if you don't like the Burial Chambers map. Tower, the nurses will drop with much less variance than the doctor. Okay. So once again, it is an 1/8 of a doctor. And also it has cool cards like the Wretched. I think you can drop like the Offering card, which is still expensive, because any map with Chevroni in it can drop the Offering card. And there's some other decent cards in there. So you can do the Tower if you want. It's also a pretty good layout. You're never going to miss any monsters in Tower because it's just like a few loops and then a boss. Bad part about Tower is the boss once again, but if you're a slower build and the boss is a less proportion of your time spent in the map, it's doable, okay? Let's talk about other things a little bit more esoteric, because you're going to look here and go, well, if that's so good, why do you have so many T15s and some other T14s dropped, okay? And here is the reason behind it. Because I can't sustain anyways, okay? I cannot self-sustain my T14 barrels by running barrels. I'll give a precursor.
Reddit will suddenly decide there's a thing that needs fixing.
Okay, so someone just subscribed to my channel while I was offline. Okay, but thank you for subscribing to my channel. Plug. So when you are not sustaining, right? And my method of rolling these maps is most of the time I use Chisels, I use Alich, I use Corruptions, I try to put a master on every map I do if I'm not running a Master's Prophecy like Alba to juice up my splinter drops. And I would say that sometimes I use Tempest. I have my fully juiced Alice. This is actually min-max because this 2% here, or this 2 units of completion here, doesn't actually give you an additional percentage. So this is perfectly min-max here, and I can't sustain my beers. So my reasoning was, there's a little bit of math here. If I do a weighting for a T14, and let's just use easy numbers, okay? Let's say there's 20 T14s, and I weight one of the maps. Then it's 30 divided by 59. Yeah, that's the chance of getting the map I want, correct? So although it's over half, it's still not great, right? So what that means is if I start weighting in other tier 14s, okay? I'm sorry. That's the wrong example. In other zone, okay, I have to be very clear about this because people are gonna misunderstand weighting inside of a zone versus weighting in other zones. Okay, So if I weight barrel chambers 30 times here, and then I go out of the zone, and for example, I take Arcade, which is a tier 14 in New Vestiaire, that weighting is added into the tier 14 pool, and overall you're dropping a map more often. Does that make sense? Because you have 30 weighting here from the barrel chambers, and if I choose Arcade, that's another 30 weighting, so that's 60, but the total number added is now, like, let's say in our example we're at 20 total maps, then it's 30 plus 30 divided by 30 plus 30 plus 18 in this example, right? So 60 divided by 78. So now it is a much higher percentage of dropping the tier 14 that I have selected that I want, right, than just selecting one. Make sense? And the more I add to this, the higher that percentage gets. Obviously there's diminishing returns, right? But that is the reasoning there. Same thing with T15, and as you go up like the tiers where there's less maps, like the tier 16s, this weighting becomes, the percentages become greater. So it's a much more the much higher chance of getting a map in one of your weightings than if you had just one weighted of one tier. I know this is super confusing, but like you'll see exactly what I mean when you start doing the system and you're weighting, you're not really sustaining the ones you want perfectly. So then it's like, why not throw in some other weightings of other good maps I enjoy, because then the overall percentage of getting a map out of my selected is much higher. Okay, that's just kind of, oh man, dude, this game is so complicated. I hate this game. Just kidding, I really like this game. So with that said, okay, that is my initial thoughts on the new system here. The new deterministic conquer spawn is really nice. I got a little bit unlucky here with 2 9 nodes, but the 5 nodes are pretty sick. A really good part of this is I'm sure a lot of people will weight the ones that sell well. So even if you can't sustain, it is, I would say it's a lot easier to just go ahead and buy the map you want, right? Like let's say that you know that let's say that you find out one day that Fungal Hollow is the best selling map at, like, I don't know, tier 14 Fungal Hollow is I don't know, it becomes like 30C, right? Example only, once again. And you're like, you know, I hate Fungal Hollow. Well, it doesn't matter, right? Because you can just weight this, and you would be motivated to sell this in bulk to players who do want it. So this will bring a lot more ability to just run the map you want if you're willing to do a little bit of bulk trading. Okay, so overall I think the system is pretty great, and the little nerf to the awakening bonus doesn't matter at all. I think it's fantastic that, you know, we've kind of overall gained some big buffs to mapping, and then now with the addition to the masters on the map device and all these other things that are coming out in patches, like the last few patches have been incredible. It's a pretty good game. All right, that's my thoughts. If you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, then you know you can go ahead and ask me. You can ask me on my stream every day at twitch.tv/qtub_. Okay, thanks for watching my video. Bye guys. Bye.